Welcome to the Bonita Business Podcast, where we bring you behind-the-scenes insights and unexpected ideas, ones that are creating business and career success right here in my chosen hometown of Bonita Springs, Florida. I'm your host, Bonita business coach Darcy Eikenberg. I'm the author of Bring Your Superpowers to Work and the founder of the leadership and career development firm RedCapeRevolution.com. I'm so glad you're here with me today. One day last year, I had to leave my iPhone at the Apple store at Coconut Point so they could replace a battery. The guy told me to come back in 2 hours. Well, and I'm a little ashamed to admit this, I panicked. 2 hours without my phone? I mean, how would I even know how long 2 hours was since I no longer wear a watch and I depend on my phone for everything? Anybody out there relate? Well, as silly as it sounds, I just remember that day clearly and how uncomfortable I felt being without my personal technology. I thought about this again as I talked to Wendi Fowler of ITVantage, formerly the longtime Bonita Springs tech firm, the client server. Wendi and I talk about the technology in our lives, the opportunities it brings, as well as the threats that her firm is seeing in the world of cybersecurity. You won't want to miss this conversation. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Woods, Weidenmiller, Machete, and Rudnick, attorneys at law. A little later in the show, I chat with partner Jay Caudle, who just opened the firm's office here in Bonita. We'll link to more information about the firm on our show notes page, which you can find at bonitabusinesspodcast.com. Here's my interview with Wendi Fowler of ITVantage. Enjoy. Wendi Fowler, thank you for being here on the Bonita Business Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Now, we are here in your office, and tell me a little bit about the work you do here in technology.
Well, we do any form of technology for businesses. We have since 1996, and we've been in Bonita Springs the entire time. But basically, any form of network technology, servers. We do electronic door access. We do surveillance cameras, phone systems, any form of technology to make a business operate and be productive.
So who's your typical client for that?
A typical client can range from somebody who has 1,000 desktops to somebody who is a home cottage style business that may only have 1 or 2 desktops, but that's the type of industry in this area that sometimes businesses start out as, and they incubate into bigger corporations. So we work with those as well.
So speaking of starting out, so tell me, how did you get here?
Well, it was an interesting start, but back in 1996, I was in marketing and advertising, and my husband at that time worked in the technology field. And we found a niche with the financial industries in this area that they needed some help and some assistance with the products they were buying and how they were being integrated and implemented. And so I quickly morphed my business around the technology industry instead of more of the marketing and advertising that I was doing. Yeah. It was a little bit of a jump, but it was interesting. And let's face it, back then, there were a lot of technologies that don't exist now. And so, I think the first start, I still had a bag phone or a flip phone. And look where we are right now with that type of technology.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's moved along. Back in the days, in order to have a business and set up for your technology, you had to have large rooms for, data closets and a lot of server racks and things like that. And now everything has gotten smaller in technology, but can do a much larger amount of data and work. And so now companies can go down to, very small operations. We carry around a cell phone that does most computerized operations for us anyway. But now the technology has morphed around to where we have the abilities to do a lot of things, but it also brings around security issues. because with the growth of us all holding cell phones and laptops and iPads and computers and everything, security becomes an issue with the internet.
So I know you said you've been doing a lot of conversations with your clients about this, and a lot of clients are really concerned about security of their data and if they have customer or client files. So what are some of the things that you're seeing that a business maybe isn't thinking about in the way of security, or, some of the things that they're trying to put in to, prevent any kind of security breaches?
Well, there's multi-facets of security for a business. One, you start with the perimeter security because you want to make sure that, obviously you have a safe environment for your business. It's lock secured. Sometimes they're double-doored secured. Sometimes they have electronic door access. Sometimes we work with some manufacturing and some communities that have the gate access. That's all electronic. And so you start with the perimeter and then you work your way in. And so I think that years ago, if a business was hacked, it was usually that somebody tried to hack from a server-based or into larger pieces of equipment. Now it's the end user that is the first point of attack. And that's why we all get these lovely things called phishing emails. Mm-hmm. And, emails that have links in them and executables. And you get emails from the CEO of your company that says, please wire, $50,000 into an account.
Which, of course, every, CEO in Bonita Springs is sending their people those emails.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And we even had a CEO that's a customer of ours where it was a good masking of the email, but there was an email that was sent out with his signature on it, and everything else looked just like he sent it to one of his employees that said, "Please go get $2,000 worth of iTunes gift cards." And, I would like them so that we can hand them out to the employees and, send them to me at this email address. And obviously it was masked. Fortunately, the employee had gone through an end user training, was smart enough to recognize that it was not something that was legitimate, and notified us and notified the owners of the company. But that's the whole objective. A lot of what we do is educate the end users, because it doesn't matter if you work in an organization that has one desktop or you work in it that's got 5,000. All it takes is one breach into one computer system, one cell phone, whatever it is, and it can infiltrate the entire system in just moments.
And yeah, that's such a scary thing when you think about how much data we have on our systems and each person's individual desktop, right. And that you could go to somebody who's, just a day-to-day employee, not a leader, not an executive, but then they could think I might have thought if the CEO says, well, go buy these cards, I might have, oh, sure, I should go do my job. But to know that even that level of judgment is right. A vulnerability point. If the person on the outside wants to get in enough and to be able to mask it to see like it's your friend's email or your CEO or your leader.
Exactly. And that's, it's cyber criminals out there are not sitting there. It's not somebody sitting behind a desk just trying to hit one particular business generally. It's generally a computer or a server that is just pinging against somebody's databases, somebody's email addresses. So we try to educate our customers on things like, how much information you put out there on your website or your Facebook or your LinkedIn, things like that, cyber criminals can easily get a database of. It's not hard for them then to mask it. We had a customer recently that had all their information on their personnel out on their website, just as their little bios and their pictures and everything. And a cyber criminal did get a hold of all of those and immediately had a database and knew all the names and what colleges they went to. Wow. and different facts about them and everything. And fortunately, they did have various levels of protection in their network. So none of the scams went through that they tried to use. But that kind of information, you need to be careful on what you're putting out there. Sometimes people list, their children's names, their spouse names, things like that. It's not a safe thing to do out there anymore because they can use it against you in a phishing attempt, in anything.
It's really interesting because I know a lot of companies that I work with, people trying to get closer to their customer or build that relationship. They want their team's faces to be shown, or they want the kind of that connection of, he lives in Bonita with his wife and 3 kids. And yet you're saying there's a potential downside to that on the security side.
Right. So. And, with a lot of employees on the websites, we generally encourage them to maybe just use a first name. If they use a picture, a first name, a simple, this is maybe their expertise or their experience with the company. And kind of leave it at that. If the customer or somebody is really looking into them as a potential customer that they want to do work with or anything, hopefully they'll be able to give that information to them personally instead of...
Right. It may say changing that where you share that in the lead generation process.
Right.
Like when someone is first coming to you, then give them here's all our team. And so it's interesting. I'd never thought of it like that before.
Exactly. And, we tell people too, headshots are very easy to copy. So if you're going to have your professional picture taken, have it taken a little bit differently, maybe, more of a candid side view, maybe, something that isn't so easily copied to resemble something that might be on a driver's license or an ID picture, because otherwise they do try to use those for,
What's the biggest horror story you've seen locally in Bonita Springs in the past couple of years?
Oh, wow.
Without having to, naming names of the keeping names of the guilty out of it.
That's a good question. I think one of the scarier ones, we had a client years ago who was very good at taking care of all their security on all their systems, but the CFO had an email sent to them and opened up the executable in the email. It put on something called a keystroke logger. And so unbeknownst to this person, the criminals then could see every keystroke that was made on their computer.
So translation, he opened a file. He just opened a Word doc or a PowerPoint or whatever. And then that kind of let a tunnel in where they could see everything he was typing.
Exactly. So they could see everything that was being typed, and they're able to record that. So what happened was the CFO would go into the bank accounts that they would do for payroll and for all their different bank accounts and functions. And so all of those passwords were recorded. And the hacker or cyber criminal that got this information used it as what we call a trickle-down effect. Instead of going after and taking a large amount of money out of bank accounts because they had full access into their bank accounts, they used a trickle-down effect where maybe, 1 week they would take out $4, the next week it was $21, then the next week there was, $500 that was taken out, and it was done in such a slow process over the course of about 8-9 months that the CFO didn't really recognize that there was any major gap or major charge or major problem.
$10 here is a rounding error. Right. It's a data entry error.
Right. And before they knew it, it was, in the tens of thousands of dollars that were removed out of the account. And so that was, it was pretty scary because I don't know about you, but, my personal bank accounts, I don't look at that closely for something that if it was $4 or $9 or, whatever it was. And I think that in big corporations, some of that stuff gets overlooked as well. And so that was pretty scary.
Yeah. And when you think about it, even when you have the best of oversights, the fact that I always get frustrated with the brilliant mind that had to think about that and have the discipline and the patience to go $10 here and $20 there and $4 there, and let me wait 2 weeks and do nothing. It's like they could come to work for a company like yours and have a legitimate great job and be helpful. So, but I guess we're not here to solve criminal minds.
Well, and the truth is, the cyber crimes are adding up daily, and the people who do cyber crimes, they make a lot of money doing it. And especially with the ransomware viruses that are out there now, it's just unbelievable, the salaries and the wages that people are making in doing ransomware viruses and other hacking attempts. So it's not going to go away. The other thing that we tell our customers is, anybody can be a hacker, anybody can breach the security of your network, and that's why you do need to protect in depth, because there's software out there on the internet that can be had by just about anybody. In fact, most of the hacker software that's out there is given for free. So it doesn't matter if it's the 12-year-old that's playing with it or if it is a sophisticated network of cyber criminals, or, it's bouncing against databases, and it's just computers competing back and forth until they can eventually get into somebody's network.
We'll be back to my interview in just a minute. But right now, I'm here with Jay Cottle. He's a partner in the law firm of Woods, Weidenmiller, Machete, and Rednick. They're our sponsor for this episode of the Bonita Business Podcast. So Jay, if I'm buying or selling a house in the area and I work with a reputable realtor, why do I need a real estate lawyer?
That's a great question. In addition to the benefits that a real estate lawyer typically brings to the table, the need is actually a function of the ethical duties which a realtor has in a given situation. Most realtors choose to operate as a transactional broker, and that choice is made for good reason, and it actually winds up benefiting the client in many respects. But it also results in some limitations and restrictions on the duties which are thrust on the realtor. For example, a transactional broker has duties to both a buyer and a seller and cannot act as a fiduciary for a particular client. They also have a limited duty of confidentiality. So very reputable realtors typically refer clients to us so that we can fill in the gaps of advocacy and provide complete confidentiality to the client.
So you can work on behalf of the one client in a different way than a realtor necessarily can.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jay. I really appreciate that. And thanks to our friends at Woods, Weidenmiller, Machete, and Rednick. You can find Jay in the Bonita Springs office in the North Bay Village. That's just around where Bonefish is, and it's right next to Bonita Brunch. And now, let's return to my interview. You've been in this industry and continually learning as it changes, obviously, and back when you started and even today, a woman who's deep in technology as well as the owner of a successful business, there's not as many of us as we'd like to see. So tell me about, in this area, what you're seeing for women in technology and the opportunities for growth and development.
Well, I was, being a woman and being in technology for so many years, I really hate to bias it based on, women versus men in the industry, although the larger percentage in the technology industry is male. But there's more and more females, and the females that are going into it are taking higher level roles. And I see a lack of it here in Southwest Florida. I'm very involved in the Southwest Florida Technology Partnership. And, one of the things that we see there as other women that are involved in the partnership is the fact that we want to encourage a younger generation of girls to go into technology. And it's not just technologies with programming or data processing or even network administration, but you have to think beyond that. All the technologies that make our life evolve nowadays, from the minute you wake up, there's some form of technology that you are touching, seeing, feeling, and there's so many different ways to go into that. I met a young gal recently here at one of the local colleges that was interested in going into the wearables for technology. And that, and that's really a category that a lot of people think of, wearable being something that would be maybe in the medical industry where they would monitor heart rates and that kind of thing. But it's as simple as the fact that I have an Apple Watch, and we all wear that. And, what I do with my Apple Watch is on a minute by minute basis, from messages to email to phone calls to anything. So I think that I would like to see more females in the Southwest Florida area go into areas of technology, just because I think that it's a good industry to be in. It's one that's going to be continually growing, but I think that way for the young population of males as well. We see a lot of younger generation from coming out from the colleges here, all wanting to go into security, which is good. But if everybody bases their education on the security end of it right now, what is the future going to hold? What in technology? Where do they need to go? And I think that's where they need to start looking.
Well, and I love what you said about thinking differently about what a technology job looks like, because when we think about technology being really integrated in all of our life, there's a technology job and jobs connected to almost everything, to, my auto mechanic and to the dry cleaner and to the bank.
Exactly.
And so, and everybody is looking for, how to serve their customer better, how to serve their client better, how to fit into different lifestyles. And when you think about how much we're dependent upon technology.
Well, and now you think of all the smart appliances that are out there outside of the business environment, your home environment, you've got your smart Keurig coffee maker and your refrigerator and a smart TV and all those applications that we use on not just a daily basis, but a moment by moment basis.
Yeah. So lots of opportunities for people to grow and develop whatever that next generation is.
Exactly.
So tell me again the name of the partnership that you're involved with, Southwest Florida.
It's the Southwest Florida Technology Partnership. It's been here in Southwest Florida for quite a few years, and we offer all kinds of programs for businesses as well as the students that are going to the local colleges here. They're famous for, they have a hackathon every year and different things like that. But we try to bring out really good topics for the different businesses.
So if someone's a technology professional or technology adjacent, they can come to a meeting and meet some other people and have a chance to get deeper into the community and find new opportunities too.
Well, absolutely. It's very good for job seekers and for those that are trying to hire. It's a good meetup for that. But it's also good for just our general business community as a whole, because a lot of the different events and topics that they have, the general public as a businesses and might be interested in attending to hear what is being said and what's being done.
Yeah.
So
with all the work that you're doing in the industry, in the community, and building your business here, you have some new changes coming around the corner for your business. So tell me a little bit about what's happening for you.
We're really excited about our changes. We have been just the client server in this area for almost 23 years. And recently we took a big step and we have expanded in our, not only our technology skills, but in abilities and future growth. We are merging with another fantastic technology company here in Southwest Florida. And we're just really excited about it. It's going to allow us to have a larger footprint. We will be able to facilitate businesses with offices from Sarasota to Marco Island. And we will have offices from Sarasota to Marco Island.
That's great. Do you know what the new entity is going to be called yet? Has that been decided?
The company that we are merging with is ITVantage, and they have a very good reputation in this area. We have really good synergy. We have the same ethics and customer service values. We believe that it's really the customer service first and superior technology solutions. And they're a company that has the same philosophy as us. When we work with a business, we're not out there to make a sale to the business. We're out there to make them better and smarter in technology and provide them with a solution that's going to work for their business. And not every solution is the same, and because not every business is the same. So it's really exciting for us. We just put the deal together, and we're excited at moving forward with it.
So as a longtime business owner, it's a big change to then partner up with somebody else. So tell me about your process of thinking about that and just making the decision, because it's got to be a hard decision just to take a big step.
Well, it seems like it was a hard decision, but I think that we recognize that we are a small big business market down here. In talking with Jeremy Stakely, is the owner and CEO of ITVantage, we just had so many things in common, and yet we had so many customers that were in diversified markets. They work in the medical market very heavily. We have a very heavy footprint in the retirement communities and in country clubs. And then we have a mix of businesses between us and manufacturing and various different industries. So it was very important to get somebody that I valued as a partner, that we could work with. And the teams together, it just seemed to mesh, and our customer bases really mesh. So I think that made it easier, I guess I should say, to make the decision.
So what are you looking forward to most as you think about the next year of that transition?
I think the opportunities that are there. I think that the deeper pool in resources that we have between our two companies merging as one, with the employment resources, as well as the tools that we both have together. I think the sky's the limit, and we're excited about meeting new customers out there, and just being able to help customers in the technology field. I think some people don't have a value for technologies in their businesses, and yet technology is really the second highest priority in your business. Is human resources are your first. And I think it's going to be exciting for me. I'm going to be able to get out there and talk with customers about that and people and really help them with their technologies so that they can better do their jobs and better run their companies.
Get over that fear factor. I think that's a piece in a lot of companies that I talk to of if there is something that's going awry, the technology part seems so overwhelming, because a smart leader, CEO of a business owner, kind of can figure things out that were in her own expertise, but the technology keeps changing so fast, and then you throw in I could have some high school hacker coming in and sending notes to my employees. I mean, that just blows my mind when you think about all the stuff that could happen.
Right.
So having some resources to be able to help, and sounds like you're going to get a chance to teach and share some more of your expertise with people out there too.
Right. And I'm really excited about that. Being a business owner, sometimes you get caught in the daily, work and operations and don't get out there and really work with the end customer and help them. And so I'm hoping to be able to get to do a little bit more of that out there. Mm-hmm. So it's very exciting. And our office, the client server's office, has always been here in Bonita Springs. We've kind of been a central point here. Not only do we love Bonita Springs, but it's kind of the center hub here of Southwest Florida. And it's advantageous that ITVantage also has offices in areas further north and further south than what we do. So we'll be able to hit a much larger span of customers and a lot of different industries. So it'll be exciting.
Great. So you mentioned being in Bonita for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing right now in the Bonita Springs community, what would that thing be?
Oh, wow. Goodness. I think it would be more a broad spectrum, not just in the Bonita Springs community, but in our local area here. And that is housing, the affordable housing coming from a technology company. We have a lot of engineers and a lot of people that work here that are, they're in the service market, and our housing is limited in Collier and in Lee County. I know that it's getting a little bit better, but it's just like when you're in the other industries with teaching and our fire department and police and everything, there's just not enough affordable housing. And so what we're seeing is a lot of our engineers and technicians that once lived in an area like Bonita or in Naples or different areas of Fort Myers are now moving out further, which makes their transportation travel time, much more extensive, which it's hard to work that way. So, I think it's problem, whether you're in technology or you're in something else. I think that all businesses are facing right now is this housing crunch. So that would be one of the main things. So
I have a business client in healthcare, and they're not quite sure if it's a trend yet or if it's just kind of a blip on the screen, but losing good people to jobs that are closer to where they live. Back to that, the time it takes to commute and having, being able to live where you work. And Bonita's in an unusual location for that of, you're kind of in between the places. So
it is. And, and the Bonita community is wonderful. I've lived here for, I hate to say it, 32 years. Not that I hate Bonita, just hate the fact that sets age limits there. But no, I just think that Bonita is just such a wonderful community here, and we've had our business here for the almost 23 years in different office buildings in Bonita, and between the chamber and the city and just everything here in Bonita, it's just very welcoming for businesses.
Great. Well, Wendi Fowler, I have appreciated talking to you on the Bonita Business Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Interesting conversation, right? If not, maybe a little scary. Me, I'm a big fan of advocating that if you're a business leader, you should be leading in public. And that means being online in all the right places. But I got to tell you, Wendi's stories about how people are taking that data and scamming companies like ours with it, well, it's definitely making me rethink some things. Maybe it will for you too. So if you reach out to me and my team asks you for a phone number to call you personally, please don't be offended. We might just be double checking that you're a real human being. Well, I'm grateful to all the real human beings listening today, and thanks to Wendi Fowler at ITVantage for spending time with me. Thanks also to our sponsor for this episode, the attorneys at Woods, Weidenmiller, Machete, and Rudnick. They've got their office in Bonita Springs. Go check them out. And you can find out more about this episode and others when you visit BonitaBusinessPodcast.com. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our podcast updates and email, and you'll be among the first to know about every episode. I'm Bonita business coach Darcy Eikenberg, and thanks for being here. If you like this episode, be sure to tell a friend and rate us on iTunes or wherever you're listening. And remember, Bonita may mean beautiful, but it also means business. Bye for now.